Most members owe nothing. See AdaCountyParamedics.org and click on Vital Ride.
All right, what's going on? Welcome back. Idaho Sports Talk. Prater in the ballgame on this Football Friday, getting you ready for the home opener tomorrow. Boise State trying to win its 21st consecutive home opener. Talk about that stat, college football fans. We're being joined by our partner, BJ Rains with Bronco Nation News. Prater, this is the Bronco Nation News Report. What's going on, BJ?
Not much. Good to see you out at basketball practice today. That was fun, but yeah, excited to be on with you.
Home opener, BJ, 21 in a row if they win this. I mean, that feels like probably one of the better streaks in the country in that regard. I don't know.
Yeah, and I was looking at the teams they played in that. It is a mixture of UT Martins of the world, but they had Washington and Oregon and some bigger opponents in here first. But, yeah, they got some streaks like that going. And so, yeah, certainly that's not one you'd like to see come to an end tomorrow.
BJ, we want to talk stock up or stock down. You know, I know you got two offensive players and two defensive players that we're going to talk about with this segment. I guess I'll just start with that. Give me a player, BJ, that you have their stock being up going into this game.
Well, we're going to go offense or defense. I guess we'll start offense with stock being up right now. And, you know, I would give honorable mention to Latrell Caples. Prater knows he's my guy. 6 catches, 45 yards, 2 touchdowns. I like what he's doing out there. But I don't think you can go stock up on offense and not point to Ashton Jeanty. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about it. You guys spent a whole show yesterday talking about it. But what he's doing right now through 2 games, leading the team in receptions, receiving yards. You take out Taylon Green, he's leading the running backs in rushing yards. I mean, 5.5 yards per carry as opposed to 2.3 for Helani. I mean, you guys know the numbers, but I know we thought he'd come in and make a big impact, but aside from that fumble that he had in the Oregon State game, it's very hard to find anything not good in terms of what Ashton Jeanty's doing. So I think moving forward, you've got a heck of a 1-2 punch there, and I'm my stock is definitely up on Ashton Jeanty.
BJ, I just wanted to ask you about that. You go back and look at the history, and I know you know this. George Helani always starts the season very, very slow, and seems like he gets a lot of momentum later on in the season after he's beat up a little bit, if he can stay healthy enough to be on the football field. How do you see this playing out forward? Do you see this as a 50-50 1-2 punch, or do you eventually see Ashton Jeanty being the guy?
Oh, I see George Helani being the guy. I think George Helani is still your number one running back on this team. He has more than double the carries. The team is not. I don't see the coaches at this point. You know, first of all, I think George Helani is going to continue to put up the stats that warrant him continuing to play. I'm bullish on that. If for some reason he continues to average 2.3 yards per carry, then sure, maybe something changes. But I'm predicting that I think George Helani gets back to him, you know, putting more numbers up from that standpoint. And so I think you're going to have to continue to find ways to get Ashton Jeanty on the field, whether you put both of them out there together. Jeanty certainly deserves to play, but I think Ashton Jeanty is still, in my mind, is the number one running back on this team, and I expect him to start playing like it.
BJ Rains with us, Bronco Nation News Report Fridays on Idaho Sports Talk. Okay, there's some stock up. Let's get stock down, BJ. Who's some guy that maybe, you know what, going into the season and what you've seen after the first 2 weeks, what's going on around here?
Offensively, we're staying there, stock down. First of all, just say honorable mention the wide receivers as a whole. I mean, when you have Ashton Jeanty, Smith and Helani, your top 3 receivers in terms of receptions. Yeah. You only have 2 receiving touchdowns as a whole from the wide receivers in 2 games. So I'm going wide receiver as a whole, and I'm pointing at Steph Cobbs. No catches in the last game. No targets, I don't even think. 4 catches for 39 yards in 2 games. No touchdowns. You know, we're talking going into the season about his production maybe doubling this year. He's on pace to do worse than he did last year at this point. So I don't expect that to stay the same. I think Steph Cobbs will get it going, but I don't think any of us would have predicted 4 catches for 39 yards for Steph Cobbs in 2 games.
Prater in the ball game, KTIK the ticket here. All right, let's go the other side of the ball, BJ. Do we start with stock up on defense?
Sure, why not? And this was a tough one for me because I think he had a couple of choices. I love what DJ Schramm's doing right now. I think he is very deserving. But I got to go with the guy that all of us bashed a lot in the offseason, Ezekiel Noah. I mean, this was a guy for me that we thought maybe he was done. He decided to come back for the 6th year. Just seemed like a step slow last year. Just wasn't himself, was missing a lot of tackles. And even, Spencer Danielson basically admitted it, that he wasn't his best last year and they needed him to be better. And he has been. I mean, through 2 games, 11 tackles. He's 3rd on the team, 2nd on the team in tackles for loss, 2nd in sacks, tied for the team lead with a pass breakup. 2 QB hurries, leads the team, and also has the lone forced fumble on the team this season. So he's been all over the field, and he's not just making tackles. He's making big plays at key times on 3rd down, 3rd and short, forcing that fumble, as I said. So to me, Zeke Noah has been all over the field. He's been very, very impressive for me. So I don't know if a 6th-year player can have a stock up at this point, but I'm going Ezekiel Noah for stock up for me this season.
I remember when Boise State put out its super seniors list, and Zeke Noah was on that list, and I'm thinking, really?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, I'm being very honest with you guys. I looked at it, and I thought, somebody's doing something weird here. I have no idea why he's coming back, because he did struggle last year. Everybody loves the dude as a man. He's a great character guy. He's a great leader. He's good in that locker room, but I didn't like the way he performed in the middle of that defense. So you're right about DJ Schramm. You're right about Noah. These guys, I mean, that's probably the one position, offense, defense, and special teams, that's outshining the entire expectations of what we thought going into this season. I love that pick, and I can't wait to see these two. If these two can stay healthy, I mean, they're going to be so stinking productive throughout the season. It might go down as one of the best linebacker duos in the history of Boise State football.
On their way.
And that's saying something, and I thought it was very telling the other day when Jay Tuss asked a question, trying to phrase it as nicely as he could about the expectations maybe not being high for the linebackers this year, and Andy Avalos is like, go ahead and say it. You guys thought they were going to be a weakness this year. That's fine. We all did. And sure enough, he's proven them wrong. And so, I think that, Schramm looks like he's there to stay. Noah's playing great. Obviously, we're 2 games into, hopefully for Boise State, a 14-game season. But to this point, linebackers have been very impressive, and they're the surprise positive story of the year so far for me.
All right, well, let's go defensive side of the ball, stock down. Is that where we are on this list now, BJ?
Yeah, this was a little harder for me to find, but just in terms of guys we thought might have produced more going into the season and aren't playing much, I kind of have a tie on this one, and I'm going Divine Obacheri and Shea Oladipo. I mean, those are 2 guys for me. You look at Oladipo, he was basically expected to start. They're, putting him they move him back to the safety spot so they can put Tyreek Jones at nickel. And I think, no disrespect to Rodney Robinson, but we all just assumed, at least I did, Shea Oladipo is going to be that guy. They're just doing this competition, whatever. And we've barely heard from Shea Oladipo. He's barely played. He only has 3 tackles in the 2 games. He's playing mostly on special teams. He's played a little bit, but Rodney Robinson has stepped up and been a really nice surprise and played really well. So I'm going to say Shea Oladipo for coming in last year, having 2 interceptions, I think, having a great start as a freshman, has mostly been a non-factor this year. So I'm saying him, and I'm going to go Divine Obacheri as well, because another guy we talked to multiple times in the offseason, thought he got some hype. I mean, right or wrong, maybe it was a mistake, but he was on the Senior Bowl watch list going into the season. And another guy that only has 3 tackles. He does have 1 tackle for loss and half a sack, but I mean, we mostly haven't heard Divine Obacheri's name much at all this season. Now, part of that is he's playing behind Scott Matlock, and you're not going to play much when you're playing behind Scott Matlock, but he can play both those interior spots. Herbert Gums has basically passed him in the pecking order at this point with what Herbert Gums is doing. Divine Obacheri is not doing much right now, and I think, we thought maybe that he'd do a little more at this point. So I'm going to go Ty, Oladipo, and Obacheri for my stock downs.
BJ Rains, Bronco Nation News Report. We do it every Friday right here on Idaho Sports Talk, 4 o'clock, getting you ready for tomorrow's season opener and tomorrow's home opener and the rest of the season. JL Skinner is not on the stock up or stock down list. He shouldn't be. He's probably right there in the middle. He missed last week's game. And what did you make of Andy Avalos, saying last week that he was going to come back, and then in his press conference on Monday saying, I don't talk about injuries? He did confirm that it wasn't a discipline issue, but he was contradictory in terms of the injury stuff. What do we know about JL Skinner, and do we expect him to be on the field tomorrow?
Yeah, I've heard contradictory stuff from different people I've talked to as well. I've had people say, JL says he's playing, and then I've had people saying he's out for 2 more weeks. So this is one of the harder ones for me to try to report here, and believe me, I'm trying. I'm reaching out to everybody I can to try to find out what's going on there. You're right about Andy Avalos saying that it was confirming at least that it was an injury. And by the way, our friend Craig Lawson, I did some conversations through him and Andy Avalos. Sounds like the policy is going to change a little bit moving forward, where we will at least now get designation whether a player is out of the game for injury or not when we get the 45-minute notice, which may help a player like JL and his mom have to not come on social media and defend his character and things like that when it turns out it was an injury. So that was kind of snowballing on social media. So it is an injury of some sort. But I don't know if he's going to play or not. I've had people literally say both ways. So we'll find out tomorrow like you guys do. We're not holding any information on that. But again, if it is some sort of minor knee injury where you tweaked your knee or something, I'm not sure you need to rush back for UT Martin. If he's not 100%, I wouldn't play him tomorrow.
BJ Rains with us, Bronco Nation News Report. I guess, we had Jeremiah on last hour, talked about some of the new upgrades and new things we're going to see with the home opener at Albertson Stadium. I guess, BJ, what would you be most excited for? The raising of the Blue Chaos flag? Do you want to see somebody run and race a dog, the dog blitz 40 yards to pick up the tee, the noise meter, there's bands playing? What's pumping you up a little bit?
Oh, I heard the media buffets back in the press box, so that's why I'm pumped for this one. But no, I actually forgot about the dog one. The dog one will be interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to go. But no, I think they're trying hard. Once they get that south end zone scoreboard up, that's going to make a big difference with what they're trying to do. The north end zone, they are going to have some more stats up there, have some more out-of-town scorers, try to do some things to keep fans more engaged. I think it's going to be interesting to see the folks trying to order the food from the app and being able to go pick the food up at the concession stand when it's ready, so you're not having to wait in line as much. They've got the TVs in the concession area now, so if you are stuck in line for your hot dog, you can watch the game on TV. I think that'll help. I mean, it really does sound like they listened to this committee and tried to implement some of the things that were causing problems. And I know long lines were a big issue last year, and so they've added more kiosks, more beer options, things like that, as Jeremiah said. And I think the flag thing will be pretty cool. I mean, Quentin Michael coming back, it's going to be a cool thing. As I mentioned, the whole thing when the playoffs with the Golden Knights, doing the siren, and it was like, Little John, all these famous people coming back to hype up the crowd. Like, yeah, I think if they can get something like that going, like the Seahawks had with the 12th man thing, I think that's going to be pretty cool. But my understanding is the coolest one, maybe the light show, which we're not even going to see tomorrow because it's going to be daytime. The light show is going to be really, really cool in terms of the team entering and the lights going out and having all kinds of strobe lights and things. And then they can shut the lights off between the third and fourth quarter and do some cool things to fire up the crowd. So I think the light show for that first night game is going to be really, really cool.
BJ, enjoy your coverage. BNN, BroncoNationNews.com, and we'll see you tomorrow. You got a pretty big day for yourself.
Look forward to it. You guys too. These are the fun days. They're long, but they're fun, and it's going to be great. Perfect weather, it sounds like. So looking forward to seeing you guys down there tomorrow.
Awesome, BJ. Thanks a lot. That's BJ Rains every Friday, 4 p.m. right here on Prater and the Ball.